as I was like digging in and doing more market research and uncovering how actually massive TJ Maxx is and no one's gone up against them, I was like, I have to solve this.
TJ Maxx is a $140 billion company. That's bigger than Nike, UPS, Lockheed Martin, and Shopify. But they are missing Gen Z. Who will take their crown? Let's find out. This is The Art of Building. Hi, I'm Kate McAndrew, co-founder and general partner at Baukunst. We are here today on The Art of Building with Rachel Gannon, who is the CEO of Offe Market, talking about off-price retail. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Okay, so what is Offe Market?
Offe Market's an off-price retail marketplace where we partner with Gen Z cult favorite brands like Bagu, Ghani, Lisa Says Ga to sell their overstock and excess inventory up to 80% off.
One of the things that blew my mind when we were doing diligence on Offe Market was finding out how much of TJ Maxx's inventory is actually produced for them. Part of the story of TJ Maxx is like, hey, you're getting this James Purse shirt, half off. But in reality, it's actually just produced for the Offe Market retail chain. Do you guys do that, or tell me about that?
We don't do that at all. There's already $750 billion of excess inventory out there. So by TJ Maxx producing lower quality products, they're actually contributing to the excess and overstock inventory problems that exist. They do that to increase their margins, to create lower quality products, and it's very deceiving to the public because you think you're getting a deal, but you're actually not.
You are in the off-price retail market with this behemoth, this $140 billion behemoth, TJ Maxx. How is Offe Market different than TJ Maxx?
The wild thing about TJ Maxx is that they haven't innovated in decades. Their bread and butter is their in-store shopping experience, the thrill of the treasure hunt. TJ Maxx does less than 3% of their sales online, so they're really driving everything through their stores, and they're not reaching the younger demographics. They're not showing up how they want to shop online or on social media. They're really, married to that in-person shopping experience. At Offe Market, we're digital first. We've built for this next generation customer that is digital first, that's shopping online, that's omni-channel, that's cross shopping between online and in-store. And so we've built that into our shopping platform in a way that TJ Maxx hasn't. And in turn, they're just alienating a whole demographic of younger generations of shoppers. And at the same time, we're also working with these really cool, high quality brands to sell their actual overstock inventory. So we're not producing anything, we're not making things at a lower quality or cheaper cost to try to drive these margins or chase these sales. We're actually partnering with real brands, creating real inventory that are struggling with the excess of it. So we're helping them really solve a problem. And while we're doing that, we're protecting their brand integrity. So that's a huge issue with TJ Maxx. Once you work with them, you have no control over how your inventory shows up in the stores. It's usually quite disheveled and can feel kind of like a chaotic, yard sale type experience. And for brands, that can really be detrimental to the brand integrity that they've worked so hard to build.
So today you're the CEO of Offe Market. I want to go back in time to little Rachel, young Rachel. What were you like as a kid? And if you look back to that time, are there any parts about who you are that you felt were premonitions for the role that you hold today?
Definitely. I was a very creative kid. I was always coloring and making things, and not necessarily coloring outside of the lines, but creating a lot of patterns inside the lines. My parents always talk about the crazy, colorful things I was creating. So I think there was always that creativity there, along with just curiosity. And then my older brother actually is very quite nerdy, some might say, very into computers, and he was also teaching me how to build websites at a very young age, which I still use some of the HTML coding that he taught me on our Shopify stores, which is crazy. And by high school, I was making everybody's MySpaces. So definitely had kind of that creative sense paired with, kind of a tech background and comfortability from a young age.
I love that. So take us through your professional background, and I'm really interested sort of in the lessons that you learned there and maybe the aha around why Offe Market.
Definitely, yeah. I was a retail buyer for over 10 years. I got my career started at Macy's in New York, and I also worked at Rue La La when that was the cool, sexy way to liquidate excess inventory. And then I ended up moving out to LA about 8 years ago to work for a startup called Bando. and I came on to start their third-party buying program. So I was buying from Vans and Baggu and these really cool, kind of cult favorite brands similar to the ones I work with today. And in doing that, ended up with a good amount of excess inventory, as a lot of brands do, and was tasked with liquidating it. So I ended up partnering with TJ Maxx where we had the margins to be able to partner with them. And I just found the whole experience archaic from start to finish. We had to use their old purchase order systems. They really wanted low costs no matter what. So really weren't making much money on it. They gave us net 90 terms, so they didn't pay us for over 3 months, and then we still had to chase them around to be paid. So for a business of our scale, it was really, really challenging to just even get the deal done. And then by the time it showed up in the TJ Maxx stores, I was like, oh my God, why did we do this? Again, along with the brand integrity, I was like, it looks so bad. And we've been working so hard to build ourselves up as like a really cool, high quality brand. And then I also ran some sample sales. I partnered with 260 Sample Sale. But for me, that also missed the mark. We were shipping inventory across the country, which was diminishing our margins. And it really wasn't providing any type of special experience for the consumers. So I really saw a big opportunity industry-wide for an off-price retailer that was catering to these more modern next generation of brands and bringing that tech-enabled component into it to make it a lot simpler.
And so what's interesting is I feel like a lot of people look at off-price and they think about the consumer or the shopper because we've had this lived experience of going into the store. But really you approached it from a brand first perspective of having been the person who has to liquidate this and seeing how broken that side of the house is.
Yes.
How did you decide to actually build a business solving that problem? Like, what was that decision like for you?
Yeah, definitely. I saw the big opportunity there for myself as a brand and what I would have wanted. And then I went out to all of my brand partners. As a buyer, I was already working with, brands every single day. So I asked them, what they were doing with their excess inventory, and they were all like, we're just sitting on it. We're kind of having sample sales, but it's kind of just tying up our finances. And I was like, if I start something that, cures all of these pain points, like these are all of the pain points that I'm feeling, are they the same for you? And they were like, yes. And I was like, if I start something that addresses all of those, would you be interested? And it was just like a resounding yes. And they were like, we need that. That is what's missing. It's such a great idea. It's such a big opportunity. And as I was like digging in and doing more market research and uncovering how actually massive TJ Maxx is and no one's gone up against them, I was like, I have to solve this. And I felt like I had a really clear understanding on the brand side about how off-price isn't necessarily one size fits all and how we could cater to these brands to make it work for them. And then on the consumer side, make the experience like really fun and different and build community around it in a way that's never been done before.
So Rachel, give me a day in the life of Rachel Gannon, like CEO of this funded, venture-backed startup in off-price retail. What's your day in the life?
Yeah, for sure. I actually am so excited to work on Offe Market every day, which I think it feels really lucky because I know a lot of people don't wake up in the morning and feel super motivated. But I wake up every day and I'm just like really excited about working on it again that day. I have a pet. I have a dog, so she's a big part of my personal life. So that's usually where my day begins. And then we just hired some team members. So we've been meeting up at different places to work together and collaborate and really focusing on our customer acquisition initiatives and then bringing on new brands. So have a lot of calls with brands every week, doing a lot of brand inbound and brand outbound as well to kind of, just bring brands through the platform. And then as we're developing our brand voice and content strategy, I've been taking on quite a role within that. So I've been filming a lot of content as well most days. So those are really the things that I focus on, every day with Offe Market. And then kind of after work, I get a lot of energy from socializing and hanging out with friends and also, creating things. So I'm always keeping myself very busy, I would say. I do a lot of crafts and projects and things like that. I like to use my time away from work to be off the computer. Like I like to do like really hands-on stuff. I love ceramics. I love wheel throwing, pottery, stuff like that too.
That's amazing. I think one of the through lines that I see with all of our founders, they always have a creative practice that I don't know about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think it's amazing. Creative people kind of have this never-ending wellspring of like, I have to make stuff, I have to make stuff, I have to make stuff. Even if in their career, they're also making stuff.
Yes, yes.
So you decided to start the business. Run me through like the then to now and kind of where you are today.
Yeah, we have had a lot of twists, turns, and pivots. I think where we really shined was just leaning into what's working and letting that really build the business. So when we first started the business, we were owning inventory, and then we quickly figured out we didn't need to do that. We could scale much bigger, and the companies were prepared to do drop ship and other business models where we didn't have to own the inventory. So quickly pivoted into that, and I think from there continued to pivot. So as customer acquisition got really challenging and expensive, we closed our warehouse and opened a retail store to build brand awareness and connect with customers and engage with a loyal audience. So kind of continued to just pivot based off of learnings as we grew. Ended up going into Techstars last year and moved to New York for 3 months to do that, and was like, I'm gonna give this everything I have. Showed up every single day and gave it my all. Networked so hard, and really found a lot of growth through that. So we 4x'd our monthly revenue. We unlocked a lot of customer acquisition strategies and new brands, and we're just on fire and growing at this exponential rate. So I was really excited to come out of that and do our pre-seed fundraising round, which is where we met each other, and we now are funded and we're growing, and we just hired, and so we're really excited kind of to lean into all of the things that are working, and now have the team to really keep building on top of that.
So if you could go back in time and tell the aha moment, Rachel, like one lesson that you've learned along the way to kind of give her a cheat code, what's the cheat code you would give her?
Everything is within your network. Be super resourceful. Reach out to everybody you know. People are super willing to help if you just ask. And so I really learned that through the Techstars network, and just really utilizing my mentors and the community, and any questions I had, there was an answer. Any playbooks I needed, someone had been there and done that before. So just being curious, reaching out to the network, and learning more.
So one of the things that I often do when we're looking at a company that's already up and running, which you were, is kind of look at their social. And you have this just very strong point of view on social and really high engagement. And it was clear that you kind of had a rabid fan base. Can you talk a little bit about the journey to that and what that has meant for you as a business?
Yeah, the social media has grown from 20,000 a year ago to 50,000 followers today. So really a lot of growth in under a year. And a big part of that was us finding our brand voice. So as we're targeting this younger demographic, we're kind of talking to them as a peer and as their like unhinged best friend. Like we go after this kind of chaotic but really funny vibe. It's not super salesy, it's not transactional, and we found that that is really the way to build the community. And they look at me like I'm their friend, and they think I'm not just buying from Offe Market, I'm supporting Rachel. And that's been a really big part of it. And I think we bring a lot of humor into it in a way that you don't necessarily see brands doing today. And it really makes us stand out in that crowd.
What's it like for you to be in a pretty founder-led brand at this point, like personally?
I think it's really fun. I always am shocked. I actually had someone the other day that DM'd us and was like, oh my God, I saw Rachel out and I was too scared to say hi. And so it's getting a little bit to that point where I'm like, oh my God, no, I'm just a regular person like you. Like, please say hi, please come up and talk to me. Or people will come in the store and be like, oh, I follow you on Instagram. And feel like they really know me, and I love that. And I've always approached the business that way, even from day one, like doing customer service, like building relationships with customers that I still follow and am friends with now. So I think that's really built kind of a loyal fan base for us. But it's not necessarily something I ever really thought in the beginning that I would be this face forward for the brand. But as we were building and testing different strategies, that's what really worked and resonated. So we started to really lean into that.
And I think it's interesting because it's actually unfathomable to me to imagine TJ Maxx having a TikTok like that or having an Instagram like that, right? And I think that's one of the things that's so cool about this wave of kind of challenger brands and challenger companies that are coming up is there are new playbooks, and there's an art to building these new playbooks that it's very difficult to imagine the incumbents taking on.
Definitely. And I think the younger demographics are so tired of the cold, the boring, the capitalistic nature of that, and they really want to know what's going on at the company behind the scenes, and there's this want for transparency. And so I think the more that we can unveil the curtain to them and show them what we're actually like, the more excited they are to support us. They're really into company values and what companies stand for, and we bring a lot of sustainability education into what we do as well, whereas TJ Maxx, you never hear talking about that because they're producing their inventory, so it's actually not sustainable at all. But younger demographics are really knowledgeable and educated around retail and how much inventory is being produced and the downfalls with fast fashion. And so they really, really love shopping secondhand. They love shopping off price. And they love that sustainability component, that they're keeping products in the life cycle longer. They're getting products at discounts that maybe they wouldn't otherwise be able to afford. And then they're getting to discover new brands through our platform.
And everybody loves the deal.
Everybody loves the deal.
Everybody loves the deal. So let's fast forward 10 years into the future. You achieve your goals with Offe Market. Like, how is the world different? Like, is every young brand liquidating part of their inventory with you? Is some percentage of the consumer base always going to off price first? Think of like drop in with that. Like if you really drop into a decade from now and Offe Market has achieved the vision that you have for it, how will the retail landscape be different? How will the consumer shopping experience be different? How will the world be different?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would love Offe Market to be bigger than TJ Maxx, a household name where consumers come to shop when they're looking for a deal or they're looking for, just an exciting shopping experience to find that deal on their favorite brand. And so we really want to be that go-to shopping destination for these consumers, and at the same time, really build on. Today we're working with 50 brands, but hopefully in 10 years we'll be working with, over 500 brands. So really see a lot of opportunity there to expand on the brand side too.
So, you raised an institutional pre-seed round. Lots of people want to do that. If you could give advice to another founder out there who's maybe going out for their pre-seed right now, what piece of advice would you give them? Yeah,
I would say check your ego at the door, just work really, really hard at it, take every piece of feedback critically and, really adjust based on that. And then just dream really, really big and think really, really big. I think putting yourself in that position as a founder sometimes is tough, where you can have self-doubt and things, but I think really pulling yourself outside of that and understanding the scope of what you're solving and how big this really could be is an important place to put yourself as you're going into those meetings.
Amazing. All right, Rachel, well, thank you so much for joining us in the studio today. It was awesome to get to talk about the art of building the future of off-price retail with you.
Yeah, so fun.
So, Rachel, if people want to follow the journey of building Offe Market, where can they follow that?
You can find our brand building journey on Instagram or on TikTok at Offe Market, or you can follow my founder journey on LinkedIn. I'm Rachel Gannon.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I'm just so excited that we are your investor.
I'm so excited.